In this episode dedicated to Dr. Ifesinachi Okafor, we will have the opportunity to travel from Nigeria to Scotland. Let's discover her inspiring story.
My name is Ifesinachi Okafor Yarwood. I am lecturer in sustainable futures at the University of St Andrews in Scotland. I am Nigerian of Igbo descent, that is from the southeastern part of Nigeria. I think, unfortunately, I'm not one of those people that could say, oh gosh, I love the ocean chose me. Because even though I was from a coastal state, I lived in the inland area. And growing up as a Nigerian and as an Igbo girl, my parents loved education, but they were keen because of the oil sector to sort of get you to study engineering or things that would get you to work in the oil sector. But then when I came to the UK, I went with someone to the open day at London Metropolitan University, and they were talking about these amazing things you get to do if you were to study international relations, peace and conflict studies. I felt, oh gosh, I want to do this. There are a lot of conflicts in Nigeria. When I was in Aba, the issue of MASOP, the movement for the emancipation of Biafra, was something that was, as a teenager, I experienced it, I saw it. And I had already decided that I was going to do my master's dissertation on the role of African Union and the UN on peace and conflict resolution in Africa, that as part of my alignment with the African Leadership Center at King's College London, I learned of an invitation to the center by Chatham House to the 10th Illegal, Unreported and Unregulated Fishing Conference. And I decided to attend. On getting there, these people were talking about illegal fishing, foreign vessels, industrial vessels, quoting numbers, talking about the impact on people. So I was like, I know of oil pollution. What is this? And how exactly is this a problem? I wonder how bad this is in Nigeria, and we're not thinking about it. And that was when I changed my mind, my dissertation, to wanting to look at maritime security threats in general in West and Central Africa. For a very long time, we have been looking at security from a traditional perspective. We have not necessarily been looking at it from the human. So how are people affected by issues, and how are those effects leading them to respond in a way that undermines the sustainability of a state? And so I wrote a research proposal. My PhD looked at illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing as a human and national security threat, as a way of understanding the cyclical relationship between fisheries depletion and piracy and other threats.
During our conversation, I asked her what would be, in her opinion, the main challenges that she could point out for women to work in the maritime sector.
I feel that one of the main challenges that women face, and this is not just on the African continent or West and Central Africa, is a global thing. The male-centric nature of the oceans have meant that the environment is not necessarily conducive. So, for example, if you look at those working in maritime law enforcement, they will tell you that until recently, when maybe the Navy, let's take for instance, would modify their boats to make room for women to go on boats and then go at sea, the infrastructure itself doesn't sort of have room for women to have separate quarters and men to have a separate quarter. So the infrastructure already is quite outdated, and that makes it really difficult. And now, even though some chief of naval staffs or head of navies are keen to send women to the ocean to do their job, they might have to make the difficult decision of reducing the number of crews going to sea to make this makeshift separate accommodation for the women, and which could be a good thing, but it can also have a security implication if they go to sea and something bad happens. Sadly, a lot of government also do not have the funds to buy new vessels that can accommodate men and women, would mean that they have to continue making makeshift allowances. There's no room for, nursing mothers, for example. They allow them to be in the Navy while also being a mother, while also being amazing at their job, without necessarily expecting their careers to end when they get married or having children. Sexual harassment is also an issue. Of course, I'm able to tell you all these things because in 2021, 2022, I was privileged to lead a research that was funded by the European Union for the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime Global Maritime Crime Program on gender dimensions and dynamics of maritime security in West Africa. And this is some of the findings. And the fact that even when women are in positions of sort of law enforcement or working in the maritime already, they are not able to progress because sometimes progression would mean relocation to somewhere else. So, for example, if you're to be promoted, you're also likely to be sent somewhere else. And then the onus is on your husband to agree or not. And so a lot of women have either lost their marriage because they said yes to the promotion, or they remain stagnant, stay in their marriage and say no to the promotions. The main thing I will say is that there's a lot of challenges, but there is also room to make improvement, and we're seeing such improvements already. But we need the men because they are currently in those positions of authority, and we are their daughters, we are their wives, and we hope that they understand that in empowering and encouraging women and ensuring equity, they're actually doing it for their own benefit and the benefit of the entire society, rather than trying to emasculate them or push them out of a position. That is not the intention, at least from the work that I have done and the people I've engaged with. There is a genuine yearning for equity, and the men are already sort of supporting that charge. And I hope that from now on, things will improve for the better.
In front of all these identified obstacles, she nevertheless expressed some recommendations on how to better facilitate the access of women to higher positions in the domain of maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea.
I think, speaking realistically, I feel that one of the ways that women can be encouraged to take positions in maritime security and governance is basically for their expertise to be recognized, because we live in a world where the maritime sector is male-dominated, as you noted. The people in the heads are the men. The people that are likely to give women the chance are the men. So I feel that one of the reasons is to, one, identify people, in this case women, that for a very long time have been made invisible because of the male-centric nature of the sector, for them to identify, to give them a voice, to encourage them, because obviously you can't push someone that doesn't feel that they have something to give. But identify the people that are passionate and have something to give and support them in whatever way you can.
I then asked her what, from her personal experience, could be her advice for young women and more widely for young people to motivate them to join the maritime security domain.
My advice would be to start from where you are with what you have. I say this because my journey did not start with the quest for being in the maritime sector. So it was really very hard and it was difficult. I didn't get funding. And so it was like years of suffering, but I was determined. I loved education. I knew that education was power, you know. In Nigeria then, there was always this news advert, something that says education is a way out of poverty. So my advice to young women and boys as well that might be considering a career in maritime security and ocean governance is you can study whatever you're studying, be it medicine or IT. There would be a room for you. There is always something for you. But the focus now is find mentors, find people that inspire you, seek advice. I mean, with the age of technology, you can just find someone on LinkedIn or any of the social media and say, hi, my name is this. I'm interested in this. Can I chat with you about this? And so take advantage of every opportunity.
To conclude our discussion, I asked Dr. Ifesinachi Okafor what would be the 3 key words which could define the future of the place of women in the maritime security domain in the Gulf of Guinea.
I would say equitable, inclusive, bright. There's something we say back home in Nigeria when you're feeling hopeful about the future. We say, the future is so bright, you need shades. I am thankful for the opportunities I've had in different ways to be part of this amazing train of change that is happening in West and Central Africa and hopefully on the African continent.
EnMAR Voices is a podcast funded by the European Union and produced by the EnMAR project.